All right, guys. Cindy's eating her pancake, so she can't say TK to YouTube this time. She's watching volleyball, so I'll say it. TK to YouTube. All right. Last video here, okay? Last video of ANP130 lab, okay? So we talked about the normal. We talked about a quick overview of the endocrine system. Well, now let's talk about what happens if we start to throw some things off in there, okay? So what's going to happen if we put an abnormal, some sort of a stimulus in the pathway, okay? So first of all, we have to talk about a couple terms, okay? So we're going to talk about, one, hormone levels. We're also going to talk about gland sizes. This paragraph up here is talking about the different gland sizes. So what's the terms that we use when we talk about the shrinkage or the growth of gland size, okay? So if it's an increase in the size of a gland, okay, we're going to call it hypertrophy. And maybe, in exercise science or, in the gym, you've heard of that term hypertrophy. It's the growth, okay, the getting bigger of something. When you talk about muscles, you talk about muscle hypertrophy when they're getting bigger. So that's when you get high amounts of stimulus, okay, to a certain gland or high amounts of stimulus to a certain muscle. It's going to hypertrophy, okay, it's going to get bigger. Conversely, okay, same thing with muscles and glands, all right? They can shrink, okay, in size if there is an absence of a stimulating hormone, okay, or very low concentrations of it. And we call that atrophy, okay, when something is shrinking, all right? So we're going to use those two terms when we're talking about gland size. We'll talk about the ones that are important here and all the different cascades that we have, okay? So first abnormal example we're giving ourselves here. So it's hypothyroidism, okay? So in this, something is wrong with the thyroid gland, okay? So that's the problem, okay? There's something wrong with the thyroid gland such that the amount of thyroid hormone produced is very low, okay? Hence the name hypo, why it's in the name. Since the thyroid cannot or does not produce thyroid hormone, there is no negative feedback to the hypothalamus or the anterior pituitary, meaning that you're going to get a continuous, constant secretion of TRH and TSH as it tries to make the thyroid gland work the way it's supposed to, all right? Since TSH levels are high, overstimulation of the thyroid gland causes it to hypertrophy, okay, becoming enlarged, despite not being able to produce the thyroid hormone in response to TSH, all right? So let's draw our pathways here, okay? Let's draw our pathways. So remember, you always have the three boxes, all right? So we'll draw our three boxes here. Draw our arrows going down. Perfect. The last box down here. And we'll draw a little arrow over here what our last hormone will be. And then we'll draw our little dotted arrows going up. Going on talking, anterior pituitary, and the hypothalamus, respectively. All right. So in this cascade, so you always start by filling in the three boxes. Okay, so what's going to be in the three boxes here? So first one's going to be the hypothalamus. All right, the master control center, same thing. One after that, anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary. And then for this example, so hypothyroidism, we're talking about the thyroid gland. So that's going to be the last one, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the hormones, okay? So what's the first hormone? It's a releasing hormone. It's going to be TRH, okay? TRH, TSH, and then the last one down here is going to be TH, thyroid hormone, okay? Okay, so this is where things get different, okay? So remember I told you, with a normal pathway, when you don't have any problems going on, okay? When you don't have any extra things cutting into this negative feedback pathway, you always start at the top of the hypothalamus. Difference here is when you have an abnormal pathway, you always start with where the problem is, okay? So the problem in this case, all right, is with the thyroid gland, okay? So that's what's going on. So what I'm going to do, as it says here, there's something wrong with the thyroid gland. So what I'm going to draw is one of those, like, blocking out symbols, like no passage, all right? I'll draw that, boom. Red circle with the line going, whatever you call it, okay? Right on top of the thyroid, indicating that that's where the problem is, okay? So I'm starting here with the problem, okay? This is where it's originating from, as it said. So problem is with the thyroid, it does not produce TH to the levels that are necessary, okay? So what's going to happen? So TH levels are going down because of that, all right? So TH levels are already down. So if TH is down, okay, it's below that threshold, okay? So what's going to happen? It's going to go up and tell the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary, hey man, I'm at a really low level of TH. I need some more. Keep kicking it out for me, okay? So because of that, it's going to stimulate that hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. So we're going to draw a plus in those little circles there because it's stimulating them to work, okay? So hypothalamus gets kicking in high gear. starts producing more of this TRH because of that. So this is going to go up. All right. If that's going up, it's going to stimulate the anterior pituitary to work. And plus, it's also the anterior pituitary is also being told to work harder because of TRH and also because the TH levels are low. So I see 2 pluses here, okay? So because of that, what's going to happen? TSH is going to go up because of it because it's being told to work on double time, basically, all right? So if that level goes up, if it's being stimulated, it's going to stimulate the thyroid to produce more TH. But remember, there's something going on here. The problem is with the thyroid, as we talked about, okay? There's some problem here at which the thyroid gland does not understand that it has to produce more TH, okay? So, as the examples I gave in class, so it's like if the anterior pituitary is speaking Chinese, all right, to the thyroid gland or something, right? Or speaking Chinese, speaking Latin. Thyroid only speaks English, all right? If it's being told over and over again to produce more TH, but it doesn't know because it doesn't comprehend what it's being told, it's not going to know what to do, okay? So because of that, you're going to still have a small amount of TH being produced, even though it's being overly stimulated, right? You have all these different voices talking all these different languages coming in and telling it what to do, doesn't know what the heck's going on, okay? So despite it being told, it's still going to be producing a very small quantity of TH, all right? So what's going to happen with those hormone levels then, okay? So what's going to happen? TRH is going to go way up because it's being overly stimulated by the hypothalamus. That's going to go up, draw an up arrow. TSH is on double time, anterior pituitary, so that goes way up, all right? TH going down, okay? Remember, once again, it's being stimulated, sure. Doesn't know what language it's speaking, though. So because of that, TH is going down. And it says right here there's a problem with the thyroid that it's not going to know to produce more TH, okay? So now let's talk about the gland size. So is it gonna hypertrophy, get bigger, or atrophy, get smaller, shrink, okay? So anterior pituitary, I see 2 pluses on this guy here, okay? It's on double time. It's being overly stimulated. So because of that, gland size goes up because it has more stimulus going to it. All right, thyroid here, all right? What I see a plus here. So it's being stimulated, so gland size goes up here, but TH levels are still going down, okay? So if it's being stimulated, all right, what's going to happen is it's still going to grow in gland size, but if there's a problem with it, as it says here, we're still going to have a small amount of that TH being produced, all right? So hypothyroidism, okay, what's happening here is it's not the size that we're talking about with the hypo, okay? It's the amount of the hormone being produced. So it's actually an increase in the size, but a decrease in the hormone being produced, all right? So knowing the normal physiologic effects of thyroid hormone, okay, what's going to happen, all right, if we have a very, very small number of this, all right? So if we don't have enough TH, so remember what's going to happen. What TH does is it increases your metabolism and it increases your sympathetic nervous system activity, heart rate, respiration rate, alertness, okay? So if you're not as alert, you're going to be feeling fatigued. If your metabolism goes down, you're going to gain weight, all right? So this is one of your learning objectives here, okay? You have to know what's going to happen if we increase or decrease a particular hormone, particularly cortisol, thyroid hormone, or testosterone. What are going to be the physiologic effects of it or the consequences of that happening? All right, that's one of your learning objectives. So make sure we know that what's going to happen. Okay. All right, so that's hypothyroidism. Pituitary tumor. All right, so another abnormal example. So we always do this per usual. Draw our 3 boxes here. Starting. Good. Draw our arrows for the hormones going down. Draw our arrow here. Draw the dotted line going up. Draw the circles. Good. Good. All right, so what's happening here? So we have a pituitary tumor. So what that is leading to, we have an anterior pituitary tumor constantly secreting excessive amounts of ACTH. Okay, gotcha. So I know where my problem is, okay? But first, let's label the boxes, all right? So we have hypothalamus first. Okay, we have the anterior pituitary next. And then in this diagram, okay, when it comes to ACTH, we're referring to cortisol, all right? So what this last one is going to be is the adrenal glands, okay? Now let's label our hormones, okay? So what are the hormones going to be? So remember, the first hormone is going to be a releasing hormone. That's going to be CRH here. So CRH. And we have ACTH here, the next one from the anterior pituitary. Then we have cortisol down here. I'll just say CORT for short. Okay. All right, so what is the problem? So the problem lies with a tumor that is on the anterior pituitary constantly secreting ACTH. So let's draw a little tumor. Let's make this guy, what color should I make the tumor, Sid? Pink. Pink tumor. Draw this thing in a really weird shape because tumors look really weird, okay? Tumor here, okay? Constantly secreting ACTH, excessive amounts of it, okay? So what's gonna happen? ACTH is gonna go way up because of it. So let's draw our arrow upwards. So if that is going way up, it's going to draw a plus in that little box because it's going to be constantly stimulating the adrenal glands to produce cortisol. And if it's constantly producing cortisol, that means the levels are going way up here. Okay. All right. So cortisol levels going way, way up. So now we're getting over that threshold. So we're getting way over the top of that threshold. Okay. So we have too much cortisol. So because of that, it's going to go up and tell the hypothalamus to shut off because we have too much of it. Okay. It's going to tell the anterior pituitary to shut off. We have too much cortisol, okay? So because the hypothalamus is being told to shut off, our CRH levels are going to go down, okay? And because that goes down, we draw a minus because it's not going to be stimulating the anterior pituitary, okay? All right? So now what's going to happen? Hormone levels. So CRH, okay? I see a decrease in the arrow right here, okay? So hormone level goes down because we have too much cortisol. ACTH is going to skyrocket, okay, because of that pituitary tumor. So we're going to have a constant secretion of this stuff, so it's going to skyrocket, going to go way up. Same thing, ACTH is going to constantly be telling the adrenal glands to produce more cortisol. So because of that, we're going to have another skyrocket in cortisol levels, right? Now let's talk about gland size. Anterior pituitary, I see 2 negatives on this guy here, okay? So remember, the amount of hormone that it produces does not dictate the size of it, okay? It depends on if it is being stimulated, being told to do so, all right? So I see 2 negatives on top of the anterior pituitary. Because of that, that size is going to go down. It's going to atrophy, all right? Adrenal gland, I see a plus on top of this guy. Constant secretion and stimulus from ACTH. This guy is going to grow in its size, okay? So that's the diagram here. So now, once again, what is the physiologic response? Okay. Excuse me. If we have a constant secretion, a constant uptake, or a constant, what's the word I'm looking for? We're going way over the threshold of cortisol. What's going to happen? Okay. What's going to happen is remember the normal effects of cortisol. Okay. So suppresses immune system. All right. Anti-inflammatory effects. All right. Allows for uptake of glucose and glucose management. So what's going to happen here? We're going to have a high blood glucose because of it, right? So we'll say, where's my arrow here? High blood glucose, all right? And we're also going to have an overly suppressed immune system if we have too much of this stuff, all right? So that's the diagram here if we have the problem. Testosterone injections, all right? Let's talk about this one. So same thing once again, 3 boxes, boom. Another box here, another box here. Remember, this one has an extra box to it, okay? That's because of the prostate gland. And then we're going to draw from here, going up, negative feedback pathway. Arrows going down, circle here, arrow going down, circle here. Perfect. All right, so let's fill in the boxes. So remember the first one's always hypothalamus, per usual, guys. Awesome. This one here is going to be the anterior pituitary. In this cascade with testosterone, we're going to have the testes next. And then since we have the extra box only with the testes, this one is going to be the prostate, okay? Now let's fill in the hormones that we have, all right? So the first one is going to be GnRH, gonadotropic releasing hormone. We have LH. We'll write this one in down here. We're going to have testosterone. All right, then we got to draw in the circle next to the prostate. Perfect. Okay. So what's the problem here, okay? So let's consider a male athlete who, due to pressure to succeed in his sport, decides to inject himself with high doses of testosterone every day in hopes that this will improve his performance, okay? So that's the problem. So it has nothing to do with any of the glands here, okay? What we're doing here instead is we're injecting manually, all right, testosterone. So we'll draw our syringe here next to testosterone, okay? So little square, little syringe, little plunger, perfect. So That is affecting testosterone directly, okay? Does not affect testes, anterior pituitary. We're affecting the hormone level directly, okay? So, regularly injecting testosterone. So, because of that, it's going to go way up, okay? We're making that choice that it's going to go way up, all right? We're injecting that. So, if testosterone is going way up, it's going to stimulate the prostate. So, we're going to draw a plus down here, okay? It's going to stimulate the prostate gland. Now, testosterone goes up, it's going to go back through the negative feedback pathway. It's going to tell the hypothalamus that my levels are way above normal. I don't need any more testosterone, so I'm going to shut these guys down. So decrease hypothalamus, decrease anterior pituitary. Because of that, GnRH is going to go down because we're shutting down the hypothalamus, okay? And because of that, we're not going to be stimulating the anterior pituitary, so that goes down. I see 2 negatives on the anterior pituitary. AKA we're shutting that guy down. So LH levels are going down because of that. Okay. And because that goes down, we shut down the testes. Okay. So because of that, testes, okay, it's going to say no to producing more testosterone because we're manually giving ourselves more testosterone via injections. All right. So that's the cascade here. That's the problem. It starts with the testosterone. So hormone levels then, okay. Testosterone we know goes way up, skyrockets. Since this guy's skyrocketing, it's going to go and tell the hypothalamus anterior pit, shut down. So because of that, those hormones GnRH and LH going way down. Okay. Now, gland size. Testosterone stimulates prostate. So if we're putting a lot of that in, prostate is going to climb. Okay. It's going to hypertrophy. Now we work our way back around the negative feedback pathway. I see 2 minuses, all right, on the hypothalamus. I see 1 on the anterior pituitary. I see 2 on the anterior pituitary. I also see 1 on the testes. So because of that, these gland sizes go down, all right? So this is why when it comes to giving yourself regular testosterone injections or steroids, as it's more commonly, termed, why your testes shrink in size, okay? It's because you're doing a negative feedback pathway, all right? Causes it to go down, all right? In contrast, okay? I had, surprisingly, I had a patient mention this to me the other day, okay? He told me that his testes, so he had testicular cancer at one point. So he lost one of his testicles, okay? So because he was making 2 less levels, so he was making not enough levels of testosterone via the negative feedback pathway, if that goes down, it's going to tell these other guys, right, hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, GnRH, LH to produce more. So it allowed his testes to go back up to normal function to produce more testosterone, his singular testicle, all right? So it's really unique how this stuff works, all right? Physiology when it comes to these things. Knowing the normal physiologic pathways of testosterone, do you think this person will have more or less muscle mass and sperm production? Okay, so what's going to happen? We give this person more testosterone. What's going to happen? We're going to have an increase in muscle mass. All right, we'll have more muscle mass. Let's see, more. Yep, and then we're also going to have more sperm production as well. Okay, so more more sperm production. All right, awesome. All right, so abnormal pathways. We have a couple other ones here, okay? So we could do these ones in our head, I think, okay? So we can do these ones in our head. And I want you guys to try and practice drawing these things out too, okay? I want you guys to practice drawing those out. So what's going to happen if we give someone TRH, okay? If we give someone TRH. So remember, TRH is one of the releasing hormones, okay? This is in the thyroid hormone pathway, hence why it has TH here. So what's going to happen? So let's just draw a supplement just to be fun, okay? So we have black here. We're going to draw a supplement. Has a little oval shape to it. It's going to be red on one side. It's going to be white on the other, like a capsule. Okay. So we're giving someone supplements of TRH. All right. So what's going to happen? So we're starting up towards the top. Okay. And just to show you what's going to happen, we put a supplement in right here. Okay. Supplement goes in right here. So we're increasing TRH. We're increasing that hormone. Okay. So we already know what's going on. That's where the problem starts. Okay. With TRH. So that hormone level is going to go up. Okay. Because that goes up, it's going to stimulate the anterior pituitary. All right. So if it's stimulating this guy, all right, it's going to go up. All right. That's going to stimulate, all right, TSH. All right. Because if anterior pituitary is being stimulated, it's going to produce more of this TSH. Okay. And then TSH, okay, what's going to happen here? All right, it's going to go down and tell the thyroid, all right, to produce more thyroid hormone, all right? So I see an increase here and I see an increase here. So what's going to happen? TRH increases, tells anterior pituitary, make more, TSH, perfect. All right. Because that increases, it tells the thyroid to make more TH. Perfect. So because of that, we go up, up for this one, okay? Up in everything. Awesome. Good. Easy peasy. Stroke, impaired CRH release, okay? So if we're impairing, someone has a stroke, damage the neurons in the hypothalamus, okay? So that they can no longer release CRH, all right? So what's going on? Scrolling up here to this guy, hypothalamus, okay? Someone had a stroke. They had a big blood clot, okay? So we'll draw like some blood clot, thrombuses, like those little clotted blood vessels and blood. Perfect. Clot there, okay? So that damages the hypothalamus. Now we got a problem, okay? So hypothalamus is damaged, all right? So it does not release CRH anymore. The master command center does not release CRH. So what's going to happen? If CRH is going to go down, all right, it's not going to tell the anterior pituitary anything, right? So because it doesn't tell the anterior pituitary anything, why does it have any reason to produce ACTH, right? And same thing, if ACTH isn't produced, why does it have any reason to tell the adrenal gland to produce cortisol? So because of that, that goes down, right? So if the anterior pituitary isn't being stimulated because we cannot release CRH, that guy is going to go down in size. It's going to atrophy, okay? And then same thing, if it's not being stimulated, aka adrenal gland isn't being stimulated by ACTH, we're going to atrophy once again. So I think you kind of can see a little bit of a pattern here, okay? So if you injure or do anything up at the top of the cascade with the hypothalamus or the hormone that's released by the hypothalamus, it's going to affect everything down below in the exact same way, okay? So large amounts of TRH, so you're skyrocketing this, increase. You're damaging hypothalamus, so it can't release CRH, so that goes down, everything else goes down, okay? So everything at the top works its way down, all right? All right, last one here. Botch surgery. No more LH is being produced. Okay, so what would happen if a surgeon accidentally destroyed the gonadotropic cells of the anterior pituitary that make LH in a male patient during brain surgery? Okay, so problem starts here, anterior pituitary. Okay, what is going to happen? As it says here, you destroyed the gonadotropic cells in the anterior pituitary. So let's go up here. So let's try and draw a knife or something like that. Then we'll draw our blade here. We'll draw blood coming off it because we damaged it. It's a big accident or something like that, okay? Damage the anterior pituitary. All right, that's where the problem starts. So if you damage this, it's not going to produce LH. So what's going to happen? If you can't produce LH, this guy's going to go down, okay? Remember, this guy stimulates the testes to produce testosterone. So if LH goes down and it does not tell the testes anything, that's going to go down and you're not going to produce testosterone because of it, okay? All right. Testosterone, remember, stimulates the prostate. So if the testosterone is not stimulating prostate, that goes down, okay? All right, now we got to work our way back around. We're at the bottom, all right? Testosterone levels are down. So that word comes up to the anterior pituitary and the hypothalamus, telling them testosterone levels are down, I need more, okay? So if we're telling the hypothalamus that you need more, all right, remember, it releases GnRH, the hypothalamus does, you're going to produce more of this, okay? And once again, you're stimulating the anterior pituitary to produce more LH. But remember, we botched it, right? We damaged it in the surgery so it can't produce any more LH, okay? So same thing. It's almost as if the anterior pituitary is deaf here. So you're talking to it, you're stimulating it, you're poking it, doing all this stuff. It can't hear you, right? So it doesn't know what to do. So because of that, this gland size will go up because you're overstimulating it despite it not being able to produce LH, okay? You're stimulating it, can't hear you, doesn't know what you're saying. Okay? Gland size goes up regardless. Okay? All right. Besides that, guys, review section, some stuff you guys can work on here. Labeling practice, going through all these pathways. These are the normal ones here. All right. Besides that, guys, I think we absolutely destroyed these learning objectives. Okay? We definitely talked about, we identified the endocrine glands, the organs, okay, on figure 13.1. We named the hormones, if we can see it right here. We named all the hormones produced by each gland. We drew the hormonal feedback pathways for thyroid, cortisol, and testosterone, including all the glands and hormones involved. All right, if the hormone has a stimulatory inhibitory effect. We also talked about how hormonal imbalances can impact hormone levels, aka the abnormal pathways. Okay, so once again, I'm going to just write out the two rules real quick. Okay, so remember, rule 1, if it's normal, start at the top. Okay, you start with the hypothalamus. All right. And if it's abnormal, all right, you start at the problem. All right, that's going to dictate everything else. The problem will dictate how everything else goes. So always start at the problem in an abnormal pathway, okay? All right, guys, golden rule right there. Perfect. Besides that, guys, that's it. All right. Hope you guys had a great semester. I know I had a great time with you guys this semester. I know I talked to a couple of you guys in class, and I'll be getting a good chunk of you guys back. I know a lot of it comes down to availability of the class if you wanted to take it. If you guys wanted to take it with another instructor, by all means, but I will miss having you guys in class. It was fun getting to know you all, getting to know what you guys wanted to get into, and then just being able to give you guys hopefully a little bit of something that you can take forward with you in your guys' careers. It's always the little things that make the biggest difference. So if it's a little thing and it can get you to where you want to go, I feel like I succeeded. All right. Besides that, guys, have a great holiday break. Good luck in your guys' final. Next semester, we hit the ground rolling with ANP130. I will be, of course, making videos for that too, and you guys can watch those guys in your own time. Even if you guys aren't in my class, these videos are up on my YouTube channel, so you guys can watch them to review them as you guys need. All right. Besides that, guys, yep, have a good rest of your week. Stay warm. It's gonna be cold this weekend, and then good luck on your finals. All right, guys. For the last time this semester, TK out.